The French election is due to take place in April 2022, but the front-runners are becoming clearer. Incumbent President Emmanuel Macron is the favourite, but there is a group of colourful characters chasing him. The most notable of these is Eric Zemmour, a far-right journalist and self-declared populist with similarities to Donald Trump. While he's not yet announced that he will stand, it seems likely he'll challenge when the time comes.
I think ultimately Zemmour is interesting because he's shaping the narrative really around the election, and particularly around the far right and the role of the far right in the election, without really having done anything concrete. And I think this is really important because it shows us a lot about the wider debate around the far right in France, and particularly around wider issues, especially but not limited to anti-Semitism and towards discrimination against other groups within France.
Zemmour's chances are quite similar to Marine Le Pen's chances, in a sense that he is about as likely to make it into the second round as she is. However, he is as unlikely to actually win the runoff.
Meanwhile, in a parallel to British politics, the left is in disarray, split and torn apart by infighting.
The left in France is extremely divided. So this is the major problem that they're facing, is that there are currently at least 4 reasonably placed candidates on the left that are running. And there's actually many more than that. And they cannot seem to agree on having one single candidate to run as the unity candidate of the left. And this is a major issue because you're already splintering a fairly smallish part of the electorate into several parts, which essentially means that none of the left-wing parties is particularly likely to make it into the second round.
The story for these presidential elections is really a story of fragmentation. The party system has never been as fragmented as it is today, at least in the Fifth Republic. So the extreme right itself is now divided between Le Pen and Zemmour, extreme ignorance. The conservative right is divided as well because 2 of the candidates are actually split from the party.
Immigration and security are the top of the list when it comes to the public's priorities in France.
The debate right now is really centering hugely on the issue of sovereignty. So every candidate seems to have had something to say about it, both on the left and on the right. And most of them seem to be wanting to reclaim some form of sovereignty from the European Union, but only in specific areas. So they're talking a lot about immigration, they're talking a lot about security. Macron is to some extent trying to counter this trend because he still wants to present himself as the pro-European candidate.
Ensuring that the terrorists are dealt with severely. That's something which came up very strongly during the 2017 presidential elections, and it's something which is emerging again as a trend here because we see, for example, the ongoing trial of the one remaining ISIS militant from the 2015 Bataclan attack in November 2015. So that's clearly a theme, and that ongoing trial I think is important as a backdrop to that.
The French electoral format does not lend itself to fringe or extremist candidates, with the top 2 favourites going into a runoff against each other. At the last election, the Front National's Marine Le Pen was soundly beaten by Macron by 66% to 33%. So can anybody beat Macron?
If I had to put a bet on it today, I would probably say it would be similar to what happened in 2017. I hesitate to make any prognostic because so many things can happen in the next 5 months.
Maybe with first past the post, Marine Le Pen could be a problem. With the second round presidential, with the 2-round elections, it's very, very difficult for an extreme candidate to make it through unless they have the support of a major party behind it. And this is quite similar even in the UK. I mean, whenever people tell me, oh yeah, Brexit, it's like, the problem with Brexit was not Nigel Farage, is that the Conservative Party came on board. The problem with Trump was not Trump. The problem was that he had the backing of the Republican Party. So this is something that Le Pen doesn't have. Le Pen doesn't have a major party behind her backing her that would make it easier for her to present herself as something of a mainstream actor.
I think 2017 was as close as it will ever get in the next few years, at least for the far right. France is a country, which has famously been divided between left and right, and very polarized in many ways, but it's also a country where there is a strong tradition of consolidation and of compromise and discussion between different sides of the political spectrum. So I don't think this will be a Trump moment. I don't think that Zemmour has that capacity to win over such a large percentage of the population.
I hate making any predictions, but really I don't see, if it was today, I just don't see anybody else really winning the presidency except the present president. It's really kind of hard to see that the French electorate could go for somebody like Zemmour.